Hello and welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint Show. I am your host, Jay Jones. Black Entrepreneur Blueprint was created specifically to educate and inspire Black entrepreneurs to launch, build, and grow successful businesses. Join us as we help build an economic power base in the Black community by promoting business ownership. If you are currently an entrepreneur or want to be an entrepreneur, we invite you to join us every week here at Black Entrepreneur Blueprint.
Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, episode number 322. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and today we have another outstanding and informative show in store for you. Today, family, we're going to be joined live by former NBA All-Star, Olympic gold medal winner, and successful entrepreneur, Mr. Allan Houston, formerly of the Detroit Pistons and then the New York Knicks. And today, Allan is going to share his amazing entrepreneurial journey in addition to sharing some of the things that he's doing to give back to the community through his nonprofit and charitable organizations. But before we get to today's episode, I just want to share a few things with the BEB family. First and foremost, I want to welcome all first-time listeners to Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Please stick around until the end of today's show, and I'm going to share all my social media contact information and resource links, such as the link to my new book, A New Black Wall Street, Circulating the Black Dollar Worldwide by Building Successful E-Commerce Businesses, and two of my e-commerce platforms I created to help stimulate the circulation of black dollars, BeSmartByBlack.com and HireBlackFreelancers.com. Hey family, I just want to share a special announcement with you. What you're about to hear is the trailer for my very first audio course titled The Blueprint. Now, The Blueprint is done in partnership with Himalaya Learning, and Himalaya Learning is an audio learning platform that provides an extensive library of courses straight to your ears from the world's greatest minds like Malcolm Gladwell, Tim Ferriss, Seth Godin, Linda Hill, and more. Now, The Blueprint, Pinpoint Monetize Your Genius, is my new audio program that can teach you how to live within your genius. And your genius is the intersection between your passion and your talent. The problem is most people don't know how to monetize that. So in this audio program, I'm going to teach you how to monetize your genius. Now, to listen to The Blueprint, go to www.himalaya.com/blueprint and enter the promo code Blueprint at checkout to get your 14-day free trial. That's www.himalaya.com/blueprint and enter the promo code Blueprint at checkout to get a 14-day free trial. I hope to see you there. Hey, this is Jay Jones, serial entrepreneur, author, speaker, podcast host, and business coach. Please make sure you join me on this amazing journey, The Blueprint. Pinpoint and monetize your genius. There is no other place like living in your genius. Your genius is the intersection between your passion and your talent. The problem is most people don't know how to monetize this genius. I welcome you to join me on this transformational program designed to provide you with a customized monetization blueprint for your new life of living in your genius. So let me ask you a few questions. Number one, are you unfulfilled at your job? Number two, are you pacified by a paycheck? Meaning that you're working there just for a paycheck, knowing that you should be doing something else with your life. And number three, would you like to be in that elusive 1% club that's actually pinpointing and monetizing their genius? There's a place that very few people know exists. It's hidden by the day-to-day routine that has been taught to us by society. It's obscured by the quest to accumulate money, trinkets, and other things that have little or no eternal value. It's debunked as a myth by those who don't believe in its existence and ignored by others who don't know it exists. That elusive place is called living in your genius. Your genius is the intersection of your passion and your talent. Imagine what your life would be like if you learned how to monetize your genius. How beautiful and fulfilling would your life be? The inability to monetize your genius is the step where most people fail, if they even try at all, thereby unconsciously forcing you to live the life society has programmed you to live, which is living by default. I'm looking forward to seeing you inside the program so you can start living in your genius. We are live with Mr. Allan Houston, NBA All-Star from the New York Knicks, gold medal winner, entrepreneur, and humanitarian. Did I miss anything, brother?
Just a husband, man. Just a husband, man. Just a husband and father, I guess.
That's what's up. Well, first and foremost, man, I want to thank you for sharing your time with the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family. And for my listeners who aren't familiar with you, can you give us a little bit about your background in your own words, and then we'll move into an in-depth discussion about your entrepreneurial journey and also some of your social, your foundational. Actually, you have tons of different things, man. So let's start it off, man, with a little bit of background on who is Allan Houston and where you're from.
From Louisville, Kentucky, and the part of my growing up in history I love to share because it's such a God is so good. As I grew up 2 houses down from Muhammad Ali, my mother and Miss Clay, my grandmother, Miss Clay, were associates and friends, and
wow.
Just growing up on Grand Avenue, it was just cool just to be able to have that heritage. Growing up in Louisville is it was a basketball city. My dad coached male high school and went on to coach at the University of Louisville. He was an assistant at the University of Louisville and coached there. And Louisville won 2 national championships in the 80s and went to 4 Final Fours. So I got to see a high level of just performance and people that inspired me at a young age. And it really wasn't until I was probably, maybe a freshman, sophomore, when I really started to think, man, I love the game, but you don't know until you start to grow into yourself, find yourself, play against really good competition, and just find your passion. And we ask a lot of young people like what they're really passionate about, what they really love, what they really feel called to do and have an impact, not on society, but just their network. A lot of people love sports. A lot of people love things, but found that when I was that age, and I also found my relationship with God. So it was a stage in my life where I was really looking for myself. But when you find yourself early, it just helps you navigate through stuff. Ended up going and playing for my father at the University of Tennessee. He was the first Black coach in the Southeastern Conference. So anybody who's kind of pays attention to sports, you think about, his pioneership there. Went on to play for the University of Tennessee, and just my relationship with my father and my parents they inspired me, because they worked really hard. When I was 8, 9 years old, my parents were part owner in a small deli-like store, like a bodega-like store in the west end of Louisville. And I just saw at the earliest that when you walk in a store in that neighborhood and you have part ownership in a store, it's empowering.
Right.
And I'll never forgot that, bagging groceries, doing stuff, but you realize that it is, partly yours, right? And that I never forgot that. And from that point on, my parents were always entrepreneurs. They went on to start one of the largest minority-owned trucking logistics companies in the country. They're still in logistics. They're still in supply chain. My parents, so kind of jumping back around, but my father was a head coach at the University of Tennessee. When I got drafted in '93, I went on to play for the Pistons for 3 years. Then I signed as a free agent, played for the New York Knicks for 9 seasons. And during that period, my parents were still entrepreneurs. And I was blessed because they never allowed me to really buy them that house, that car. They always save your money because we know that we want you to kind of invest this in the next whatever your dream is. And that was empowering in itself, because it wasn't until I signed my third deal that they were finally like, all right, we'll let you kind of, do something. And so for me, was always out of love for the game. It was always out of love for your gift. And, I was very blessed, that they gave me that mindset.
That's a blessing, man. So it looks like you had entrepreneurship all throughout your growing up with your parents, man. So what do you think it made it easier for you to step out on your own after seeing your parents doing it for so many years?
I don't know if it would say easier, but it depends on the context of easier. So easier meaning, did I have I had a great wealth of resource to fall back on, and for them to save. The first thing they would always say is, you got to save.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was the first financial fundamental that they showed me. It's like, get what you need. Like when you're going into professional sports and you have the ability to do things, you do them just because you can, not because and now you need to do things because of what you need to do, not just because of what you can do.
Right.
So I was just learning a lot of this basic fundamentals of finance and had a lot of help. The biggest thing was kind of, even with my dad, because he was a coach, just selecting counsel, selecting an agent, selecting people who are going to guide you, because there's a lot of stuff you don't know.
Yeah.
And so that was very helpful, knowing that I could count on my mother, who ran the financial aid department at the University of Louisville for years. Like, nothing was going to be pulled over her eyes. She knew so much about finance and accounting that people from all over the country still call her for like wisdom. It's a blessing, man. So like for me, what I have in her, like, man, a lot of people can't pay for it. Like, I can call and be like, man, like, what do you think? Like, how? And it's not just financial wisdom. It's spiritual. It's moral wisdom that you're getting, and what's right, because you can do a lot of things to make money, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing you should be doing ethically and morally. And so, anyway, that was something that. But there's still a challenge, because as a young person, in your 20s, you still are trying to do what you want to do. You're still going to, like, your financial people can say, I wouldn't do this, but you're going to do what you're going to do. And so what I do, right? So you're going to be passionate about your dream. You're going to be passionate about something, and you want to invest your time, energy, resources, and talents in it. But you still got to go through a lot of stuff to get the experience, to go through it.
Man, so I wanted to ask you real quick, and this interview is probably going to be a little bit different than a lot of the interviews that I do, because we're touching on entrepreneurship, your charitable foundations and things. But I wanted to ask you about how was it with your dad coaching you? Because I know a lot of times that dynamic can be good or bad.
Well, what made it work for us, first of all, was our personalities and our demeanor, right? He was coaching people that were in the NBA, but well before I could even think about playing the NBA. So I had such a level of respect for him, because the people that he had coached, I admired. So coming into the University of Tennessee, the second thing for me was, I was a top 5 player in the country. He was the first Black coach in the conference. There was a lot on our shoulders that we felt like, I didn't care about that. Right. All I cared about was we got to make this work for our credibility and just as character. Like, we knew I'm going to leave Tennessee. He knew he wasn't going to be the coach forever. But if people could look back and say they represented their name and their family well, that was our thing. That part, but there's still, like, you're 20, you're 19 years old, 18, going into college. So there's dynamics there, right? Yeah. But I think what made it work, another thing that made it work was I just felt like if I worked really hard, then all I had to do was earn the respect of my teammates. And that's really what I tried to focus on the most, is be a competitor, work hard, try to just do what I was told, and the performance and the accolades would take care of themselves, so I could have their respect. And And just, my father grew up 15 minutes from Knoxville, Tennessee, and Alcoa, Tennessee. So we had a lot of family. We had a lot of deep rooted ties. And so that helped. But yeah, I mean, it was still a challenge in a lot of ways, in the South, you know what I mean? There was a lot of, you just hear a lot of things, and, he got denied into country clubs that normally white coaches and white people would get into. And just, so we saw that, and at 18, I'm like, man, not only am I seeing this from my coach, I'm seeing it from my father.
Dang,
you know what I mean? So there were a lot of things that we dealt with, but, we really, so much of what my brand and entrepreneurship aspirations are is because of that relationship.
That's a blessing, man. It's funny, man. You had talked about some of the people that you looked up to when your dad was at Louisville. So I'm going to date myself too. So I'm figuring Darrell Griffith in '83. Was he there? The McCray
Darrell
brothers.
Griffith, yeah.
Rodney and Scooter. And then right from my hometown, right across the bridge, Billy Thompson, Milt Wagner. Those boys, yeah.
So we could spend a whole podcast on that.
I know.
Because, Scooter was his first real recruit. Darrell Griffith, he coached in high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's the greatest basketball ever to play. Come out of Louisville,
Wow.
Darrell Griffith, man.
Get out of here.
And Coach Turner almost had me play for Camden.
Wow.
When I was in 8th grade, he was recruiting those guys. And Coach Turner was like, if you come up here to Camden, I'll get you right, and blah, 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 blah. And we loved it because those were like when Billy, Milt, Kevin Walls, those guys were like people I just looked up to. I wore number 20 because of Milt.
Yeah, that's funny, man. Yeah, that was a great time, man. That pipeline from Camden to
serious
Louisville was crazy, man. Yeah, you're right, man. We could talk about that all night. We'll talk about that off the air. But
right.
I wanted to ask you, man, you touched on something that's very prevalent. That's really, it's prevalent in the NBA. You talked about saving money. And so as a professional athlete, obviously you have a finite earning period there. And why do you think a lot of the athletes end up, bankrupt and broke?
Man, because again, I had something that I was very fortunate to have, right? Mm-hmm. I had parents who said, I don't need your money right now.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And I realized that as a Black male coming into professional ranks, to say, I'm going to say, keep your money, save it. I don't want it. I don't need it right now. That is very rare. And I never take that for granted.
Yeah.
So when I'm in that position, most, and because I'm in it now, I'm still working in the league. I'm still talking and trying to help all our guys in these matters. So many guys come into this, and the first thing they do is they not only do they want to take care of someone, their family, they have to.
Right. Yes.
So it is almost, and so for me, I was very fortunate. So now you have to navigate that whole thing financially, and you sign this deal, you got an agent who might front you some money. Now you owe him or her. Right. So you kind of like in this weird place where you have this trajectory, but you still start from below ground.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing, which is the thing that I really think about now, is you are a brand. You are, and I know you can appreciate this because it's what your platform talks about, and I'm looking forward to even learning from you, because at the end of the day is we're all brands, right? And we have a value. And when guys understand, and they're starting to get it now a lot more because of a lot of the social impact things that are happening, they're starting to understand that, wait a minute, I'm a brand. The more I increase my value, the longer I can last, not only as a player, as a performer, as an athlete, but as an entrepreneur. And you start to learn younger that I can do things to increase my value, not just by followers on social media, but just who I am.
Right. Right. That's important, man. It's so funny. I had a conversation earlier today with one of my good friends. I'm watching this show on Netflix, QB1. So it goes in
Okay.
about the quarterbacks, the top high school quarterbacks, and they'll do 3 in each season. And I was just telling my buddy, I said, man, there was this young brother from, I think, New Orleans. And I was looking at his situation. He was the oldest kid. His mother was raising him. He had 2 sisters and 1 younger brother. And all he kept saying is, man, I got to make good so I can go to college and take care of my family. And my buddy and I were just talking about what type of stress level that must be for a 17 or 18-year-old, person to have that weight on your shoulders. So, it's that's, I mean, you're blessed, brother, to have that. Yeah, man, to have that foundation and that background. The question I was going to ask you next, which I probably know the answer, I'm going to ask it anyway. Who are your role models growing up, man?
Well, yeah, my parents were my role models, but I had players that my dad coached.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talk about the players. When you're growing up, and that's all you. I wouldn't say that my dream was just to be in the NBA, but I knew that I looked at the qualities of the players that my father coached, and they were the guys. Derek Smith, whose son now is a coach at Duke. Derek. I mean, Purvis Ellison, who we know.
Yep.
You keep going on, and these guys were like guys who I looked at, and I looked at Kenny Payne, who now he was a coach at Kentucky. All these guys my dad recruited and coached were like big brothers, and they took me under their wing.
Yeah.
And they became my big brothers. So those were probably the ones. And then, when I got to the NBA, I had Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas and guys who I could really kind of emulate. So growing up, those were my mentors and people I looked up to.
Yeah, that's something, man. To be able to be connected to those type of people, and especially the foundation with your parents. And I think it's unfortunate a lot of people don't have that foundation. And the blessing is that you had it and you used it and leveraged it and learned from your parents. Sometimes we have great foundations and don't utilize those resources, man. So I wanted to segue real quick into entrepreneurship before we start talking about your organizations. What was the first business that you started, and did you start it while you were playing or after you stopped playing?
The first thing that I tried was actually try to do a kind of a production company.
Okay.
At the time when I signed with the Knicks or transitioning from Detroit to New York, I had just gotten into kind of finding myself again, my faith.
Right.
I was starting to follow a lot of Christian, hip hop artists, Christian entertainers, people who were really trying to shine a light in culture, with music,
right.
Particularly. And I had a cousin of mine who he had an album out, and we started looking at a couple other artists when the gospel hip hop was kind of, in my mind, was starting to emerge a little bit.
Right.
So we looked at that, and we invested in an album called in a group called Gospel Gangsters.
Okay.
And so they were, some guys who had got caught up in LA in the gang life, and just try to return their life over. And so that whole thing was probably my first real kind of dabbling, kind of really trying to understand, and then after that, friend of mine I met in New York, where he was in apparel, and we ended up acquiring the MBA license. And we were partners for a few years, and we were started the company UNK, which is MBA streetwear apparel. My man Dave Huey was my partner. Man, still good friends, and it was part of his, his thing. Like, he started this name and I came on board, and kind of we got the license, and we learned a lot from that. It actually did well, but again, had to be more of a silent owner. Right. I was under contract with the Knicks and with Nike, and so apparel was one of those things that was really interesting to me, because I'd always liked, clothing. I always liked to dress. My dad always was very, he didn't say it a lot, but he dressed, and he would always talk about presenting yourself well, your image, and how you look. And it was something that I just liked anyway. Right. So that was something that I always wanted to, to dibble and dabble in. I never really got into a lot of the other things with the real estate and, franchising. But, my thing was, I was going to put money into something I really was passionate about. I didn't think about doing things for like passive income. Right. But those were probably the two, things that I really started off looking at.
Now, how do you compare the challenges of being a professional athlete versus that of an entrepreneur?
Great question. I think both of them, we talked about, you have to find what you bring to the table, what your strengths are. Like, what is it that you do well? As an athlete, it truly is about, okay, I know what my job is. My job is to go out and produce. I have an assignment, I have a routine. I'm gauging. I know how. Probably it's easier, to say, here's how I impact winning, right? Because your goal is to win. Your goal is to say, how am I contributing to the success of this team? As an entrepreneur, I think you have so many more layers and dynamics to manage and to look at. Probably one of the parallels that helps me think of it better is being a GM. When I was the general manager of our G League team, I had to be responsible for budget. I had to be responsible for hiring. The biggest thing to me is hiring. As an entrepreneur, you have to have the best people working with you. Right. And I mean, if you can find the best salesperson, you can find the best sourcing person, you can find the best at what they do, then it's only going to help, the company. The key now is, how much can you afford to pay that person, right? Right. So really, I would say I find a better parallel to general manager, to managing, because now you're truly managing the people. You're finding the best talent to do what they do best. You kind of have to really manage the expectation and the vision. And as a player, you feel more like you're the best way I can think of it is more the product. Right. Because your job is to go out and do your job, help your team win. But I think you still have to look at, what am I doing? What am I doing personally to be at my absolute best? And it really comes down to, how much are you investing in yourself? And as an entrepreneur, I feel like everything comes from you and your vision, right? It comes from you and your vision, how you execute, how you articulate it, how you express it, And as a player, you're a brand as well. So if I see myself as this type of player, then I'm going to shoot for that. And hopefully that team and that coach can see that in me and help me go do that, if that makes sense, the best that I can do it.
No, that makes a whole lot of sense, man. I want to switch gears real quick and talk about what you're currently doing right now. I know you have several different entities, but can you break down for the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family what you're actually doing in business right now? And then we'll dive into that.
So I'm still working with the Knicks, kind of in a development role, with players, just talking to coaches, talking to players, see where I can really help them kind of maximize their potential. A lot of these conversations I like to get into in terms of how their brand, in terms of not like how they're marketing, because I don't get into that. That's more their agents, but how their just their way of being, how they interact with the teammates, how they interact with the staff, as well as their on the court development, how those things kind of come together. Mm-hmm. So we just talk a lot about leadership. We talk about when you lead, the better leader you are, the better you're going to make your team, and the better you're going to bring value to yourself and the team, and the better you're going to help the team win. So we talk a lot about that. Outside of the Knicks, when my dad and I when I played for my father, when I got to the Knicks, it really hit me that the relationship that I had with him was something that I really wanted us to share and give back. And I wanted to share, the basic fundamentals of manhood, fatherhood, of leadership that allowed him to pour into me. And I felt like, let's pour this into other people. So we came up with this kind of 5-point strategy, what we call the fundamentals of life, which is FIZZLE: faith, integrity, sacrifice, leadership, and legacy. So we started off doing these retreats and workshops and learning around just basically saying, like, the sweet spot for a young person is, and their success is, a caring and competent adult, a mentor that can really pull them and help them understand their true worth and value. And the leader and the adult in this still has to have accountability on themselves. So we felt like FIZZLE, those 5 basic values, help both the young person and the adult. So years after that, it came to me, and this guy said, look, you have something, I want you to brand it. You have a business. This is not just a curriculum. This is not just words that you can go talk about. This is not just a book. I want you to brand this. And that's really, over the last 3 years, what I've really been working hard on is really trying to articulate how my passion with leadership and what I got from those 5 values, how they can be packaged into something that people really can embrace, can adopt. Mm-hmm. Had a chance to go back to the NBA and reacquire an NBA apparel license for premium, athleisure wear. So now last year we came back and we had a Fanatics, and we had other retail chains, but now I'm happy to disclose we're about to launch a social justice collection with the NBA. Oh, wow. And that's exciting because it allows me to take this message of FIZZLE, of how we've been able to kind of help young people and adults in leadership be amplified, but tie the apparel and merchandise with it. Because what we know is so many of us now are looking at apparel and merchandise and swag as a way to express ourselves, our brand. Right. But if you don't have the distribution, right, and the channels to grow it, then it becomes an entrepreneurial hobby. Right. And what I want to do is to help, especially Black entrepreneurs that during this time really create brands that can not only, last, but they can really make an impact with people. So the leadership kind of platform and the merchandise kind of are actually being married right now. So we're in the Chicago public school system. We're in Stamford, Connecticut, Louisville, Kentucky. And we had planned to do a 5-city kind of tour and initiative before COVID. So now we kind of have to do some things virtually, but at the end of the day, the brand of of the apparel and merchandise and the learning leadership platform are actually kind of merging. So that's really the most recent things that we're working on. And it's exciting because, you know, I like to think of it as your brand is your out expression of your inner being, right? And so when we think about how to teach people to articulate that and express it, then when you find yourself and find your brand, find who you are, and then you can apply apparel and an outer expression of it, that's really, it really makes it. And so from the foundation standpoint, my foundation, what we do is we basically, we train and equip the leaders to really train leaders to really hold these conversations, to use this kind of platform, this tool. And then we walk with them in terms of how do you really want to maybe have a collaboration with us as a brand.
So the brand of your product is called Fizzle. Is it the same as the actual organization?
Yeah, so Fizzle is the overall brand. It's the overall. We kind of wrap it all under one thing. That's Fizzle. So Fizzle has a media arm, it has a merchandise arm, and the foundation has a non-for-profit arm where the foundation kind of really works with, you know, more people who are working with young people, you know, who are leading them, and, you know, whether it's coaches, teachers, even parents, you know, whether it's Fellowship of Christian Athletes to you know, AAU teams or schools. It's really anyone who's working with young people. And we really, you know, when somebody made a comment, he said, man, I see what you're doing. You're doing a lot with the kids. And I said, they are our future. And he said, you know, what's crazy, Al? Like, we, the parents, are the one who need it probably more than them. I said, you're absolutely right. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, like the old saying, the apple don't fall far from the tree, but that's really what motivated me, is because we call, if I could give you a visual or tangible symbol for what Fizzle is, it's a lens and a mirror. Gotcha. The lens is the view and the perspective from which we need to be seeing our life and our leadership capacity. But the mirror is how we need to be looking ourselves and saying we're modeling our own expectations. And how, so from a leadership perspective, there are so many young leaders, especially right now, who are wanting to use their voice, should be using their voice, but do they know the power of their words and what they really need to be saying?
Right. That's powerful, brother. I wanted to ask you how a lot of entrepreneurs and I used to own a mortgage company before the crash, and I used to through my connections, I used to deal with a lot of professional athletes. And I'll be honest with you, man, a lot of them were in business, but it wasn't necessarily a business of service. What it sounds like to me, man, and I'm big on service, brother. That's what we're put here for. We're here to serve in some form or fashion.
Absolutely.
Where does that come from in you? Does it come from your faith, your upbringing?
All of the above. You know, I remember when I have 7 children. My oldest is a senior at NYU, to my youngest is 8 years old. Okay. When I was my youngest son's age, I was going around with my father, helping him and being in basketball camps, watching him pour into other young people, pouring into coaches. So for me, it's what I saw. I saw him doing this. He was teaching coaches. He was teaching young people all the time. Then when they were able to get their company, they always hired people and helped them as people. Right. They had a chance, and I hope my mom don't get in trouble, but they had a chance to do a large casino project at one point in their career, which would have exploded the business. Right. And my mom said, I don't feel at peace about this. And the whole time they were like, their whole job thing was, if we can employ ourselves, give us a legacy of wealth that we can pass down, but still help people, employ people. So in the city of Louisville, you ask people about the Houstons, they're gonna say, man, they use their entrepreneurship to help people, but they still didn't forget that we got to run a competent business, right? And so and a lot of it was our faith, you know. It's like, it just part of the spirit of God, right? Jesus, it was just who he was. And the spirit of God is that if it's truly living and breathing in you, you're gonna want to help people. Now, the way you do it is gonna look different for different people, and how you use your resources. So I can't judge another person's heart. But I think it's just your values. You know, you have to have a value system, and that's really where the essence fizzle comes, is sacrifice. You gotta, it's bigger than you.
So do you think your mom didn't feel comfortable with that because it was gambling? And was that it, or it just was something else, or she just didn't feel right doing it?
I think that was a lot of it. I think she probably felt like, you know, when you have business, this is another thing I'm sure you face many more times than me. Most people have to get in bed with someone when you're in business. You're not just always spending your own money, right? You're when you're in business, you're in a marriage, right? And the problem is, in a business, you got to figure out what your exit strategy is. In a marriage, you don't want no exit strategy, right? You don't want it. But so I think part of it is, in business, when you lock in with somebody, you better know them really well, because at some point it may go apart, and you got to figure out how it works.
Right.
Good partner, but it just, the alignment in vision started to be different, right? And I think that was part of it as well.
Well, you know, it's funny, man. People always ask me on the podcast, you know, why don't you take advertisers? And I said, I don't, because I won't take advertisers, and I turn down over $10,000 a month in advertising from big companies, because it has to be aligned with what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Black economic empowerment. Yeah. And so, to your point, I had have a good friend who just started a cognac business. And he was like, yo, man, why don't you invest, blah, blah, blah. Not that I don't, you know, drink. I'm a bourbon guy. You're in Kentucky.
Right,
so,
right.
So I sip on my bourbon a little bit. But I just said, you know, you can promote life or you can promote death. And there's nothing wrong with drinking. You know, like I said, I bourbon is my thing. I'll sit back have a little bourbon or whatever. But I said I didn't want to promote that because, you know, like I said, there's life. You can promote life. You can promote death. And unfortunately for our community, there's alcoholism is one of the things that's tearing us down. So I said, man, I'd love to invest, but it doesn't align with what I'm talking about. And I can't talk right and walk left. And so,
respect to you, that man, because not a lot of people would do that, especially today's world. You know, so you know, God honors it. I respect it.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, I mean, I have to be true. It's funny because my daughter, my oldest daughter, she was like, Dad, you're passing up so much advertising money. I said, yeah, but with that, like you said, it's a give and take. So if I talk about, like, one of my shows was you know, Black power versus white supremacy. So if I have some people that don't like what I'm saying, then they're going to pull the money. And I don't even want to get accustomed to it, because I need autonomy. Man. I need to be able to speak my truth. And so I definitely get what your mom was talking about there, man. So Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family, let the light bulb go off. Make sure whoever you get in business with, that you both are aligned with whatever your objectives are. And so if you have to compromise yourself, it's not a good deal. All money isn't good, you know.
That's right. That's right, man.
Man, you got a lot going on, bro. You got a book too, man. Tell us about the fundamentals of life in 3D.
Well, again, it all came from me, really, as I was trying to really have the fizzle model come into my head. I kept talking about it, and people were saying I like it, the whole concept of fizzle, because these if you look at these 5 kind of, we basically covered in that one topic. You talked about integrity, right? We got to have integrity. You're going to have to sacrifice some things if you want to be a leader in the field in your community. Then then you're going to have to make certain decisions and lead by example. And the thing is, your legacy in that instance, that's what your daughter's going to remember.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you did that, she's going to remember that. And she's probably, and obviously the faith and belief that I'm going to have to keep going without things. So to me, fizzle is always everywhere, whatever we're doing, we just have to see it. So what I needed to do is to be able to articulate that. People kept saying, Al, you need to do a book. You got all this stuff going on. I didn't want to do a book about my life, about me. I wanted to do a book about what's going to be beyond me. I want Fizzle to be something that, whether my kids want to adopt it, but it goes beyond me. What really inspired me to put the book of Fizzle in this way, Fundamentals of Life in this framework, is John Wooden's Pyramid of Success.
Oh, yeah.
John Wooden had that book, right? Yeah. Simple, easy to read, nuggets upon nuggets. And it was great. So I started to do a PowerPoint presentation of Fizzle, right? I wanted to just lay it out.
Right.
And one of the things that I wanted to do early is when I articulated what Fizzle was, I wanted to say there's 5 things we need to do when it comes to having values, right? First, we need to establish what our values are, okay? Then we need to be able to define your values. I can say I want to be a hard worker, but do you know really how to define what hard work is, right? Then you need to apply your values. If you can't apply them, then what are you doing? Then you need to measure how you're doing them. You need to have an internal system of saying, the last thing you need to do is you need to be saying, what's my reward? Like, I just, I want to have a reward. I want to feel good about it. What am I doing with it? So those 5 things were what I needed to say. I needed to make sure that when I'm talking about Fizzle or teaching Fizzle, these 5 things need to happen. And that's what we even try to do with the brand. But what happened out of that presentation, I said, I need to go ahead and make the book kind of a way that people can take these principles.
Right.
And I'll talk about my life, and I'll talk about where faith applied. I'll talk about, playing against Rex Chapman, and when he came into my locker room and said, man, you'll keep working it. But it still has to be about Fizzle, not me. Because, and so that was really, so now what we do now, the beautiful thing about it is it's just something that we offer through the foundation. People can buy it and they can go get it. All the money goes to the foundation. But what happens is I've had a lot of, adults say, man, I read this with my son. I read it with my daughter. I gave it to my team. And it has this connecting language. So it's hard as a coach or a parent to draw ways to talk about leadership, to talk about life principles. I wanted this to be a very strategic way for an adult to speak to a team or themselves, really, but about, we talk about character. Everybody will say, if you're a coach, you're a leader, you're an entrepreneur, you'll say, what really drives success? Talent does, but it's the character really that really drives success. Yeah. And so how we articulate that, I just wanted to drive that. And so that's really, so we talk about life in 3D because we talk about this mind, body, and spirit. You can have talent, you can have intellect, but you still need to have a drive and a passion and a spirit that when they all come together, I think that's really what the 3D component brings out.
Where do you see yourself and your business in, say, 5 years from now?
Great question. Well, one thing, because I really want Fizzle to be a brand that, well, one, I think licensing is a direction I really want to be in heavy because licensing and intellectual property, I feel like are the next frontier because if I have something that is valuable that only God has given me, then that no one else can bring to the marketplace, then you got to pay me for that. You know what I mean? And so what I would love Fizzle to be is to be a brand that when people see Fizzle, it's like, I want to collaborate with Fizzle, whether it's apparel, whether it's leadership, whether it's coaching, whether it's media. because I see the message being so impactful and I see myself in alignment with that message. And then it's a matter of how Fizzle can, I can partner with that message and bring something to life, right? So for me, collaboration, licensing. So now we're talking to NASCAR and their diversity team about, could we do an apparel line with you, and you use Fizzle as just a way to expand your resource base. But guess what? When you make money, what a licensing deal does is say, okay, if we can help someone through our brand make money, and that money go to make more impact, then I think Fizzle has done its job. So I want to be a global leader in being a social impact brand. When you think of a social impact brand, you think of a brand maybe like a Tom's or Amazon that says, right, we made this much money and we gave this much money back. But right, what you don't hear about social impact is we gave this money back, but we also trained and taught and poured into leadership and perpetuated the message and the action, not just gave the money. So for me, I want Fizzle to be a brand that is really known for helping other people build their brand, especially Black, young people know their brand, know their worth, but maybe help them understand their intellectual property and licensing as well, so that people can come to them, say, I can't get this anywhere else because it's you, right? Right? I don't want to just hire you. I need to partner with you. Right, exactly. Because it's your intellectual property, it's your brand that I need to partner with instead of just hiring you. So ownership is a big thing. I'd love to do a collaboration. Like you see a lot of these Off-White, a lot of these brands do stuff with Nike, with Jordan, with all this. Mm-hmm. But I want to do that and do it in a way where the person, the designer or that person has ownership of their property, if that makes sense.
Nah, makes a whole lot of sense, man. You touched on a couple of things, man. It's funny, I'm working on an entrepreneurial program for youth. And so, and people have been asking me for this for a couple of years. And so licensing was a way I was thinking about going about that also. So we definitely got to chat offline too, man. Like we said. Sure. But what's funny, man, you touched on and I know you're a man of faith. And so it's funny. You basically said, I'm not just going to give a man a fish. I'm going to teach him how to fish. Yeah. That's what you really said. You know what I mean? So don't just give the money, but teach them so they can continue to perpetuate that. And that's what it's about, man. Brother, I got two more for you real quick. I appreciate you, man, for hanging in with us. If you were talking to a young entrepreneur or prospective entrepreneur, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give them?
Know who you are so that this can last forever. Because this is not going to be something that you have to know really what your deepest dream and passion is, because you don't want it to feel like work.
Right.
You want it to be like I could have this conversation for another 3 hours. You know why? Because I'm passionate about it.
Exactly.
Right. And it's because when I get on the phone and talk to my program director for my foundation, to the person who's running my merchandising, to the person who's developing content, I'm having the same conversation with the same passion.
That's it.
Right. So for me, it's like, this is not a short-term thing, right? It's almost like saying, picture yourself as a baby that's trying to dunk like LeBron. It's not going to happen, right? It's a long process, but if you are really passionate about it and you see this as an eternal thing, then you're not going to worry about what stage of the game I'm in. Right. It's always going to be a learning process, and it's always going to be something you'll figure out how to meet the right people. So I think that would be my biggest advice.
Man, do you have an exit strategy for your business? Or are you just going to keep rocking?
That's a good question. I think that's why I think about licensing, because at some point I do want to say to my 7 kids, guess what? What part of the game do you want to play in this? If you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do, then here's a process that will be able to tell you how you can, what role you can play in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so licensing can be anywhere from like a Martha Stewart, to it could be just, we're just going to stick over here, right?
Right.
And so it kind of gives flexibility. So for me, that's why I like licensing. Like, I don't ever want this to be somewhere, like a Ralph Lauren would say, well, or Tommy Hilfiger would say, well, I've sold this part and now I'm just sitting back. I still would want to have the Fizzle name be in good hands. You know what I mean? So when I think about Fizzle, I do think about like, okay, what is that? What does that look like? It's hard for me to think about that right now, about the
Right.
exit strategy of the dynamics, but I do imagine a day where I can, say it's the name and the process is in good hands, because the name speaks for itself, right? The words, the values, they speak for themselves. So you just got to uphold them and live them out. But yeah, my wife, listen, our youngest is 8, so I feel like I have a window where we can get this, get set it.
Right.
And I definitely want to enjoy, all these grandkids. Hopefully that I'll have.
Yeah, man, you're going to need to build a big empire, brother. Man,
right.
Man, yeah. I got one more for you. I know you got some business to take care of, you and your wife, in a minute. And then after this question, if you can just let people know how to link up with you, or where your social media handles are, everything, so we can support you. If you had the opportunity, man, to speak to one person, conversation, living or dead, who would that be and why?
Man, I mean, it's hard to say one, because the one would be Jesus, but
we got that answer before.
We got that. Yeah. I would say, that's the other tough one. The other one will be Frederick Douglass.
There you go. Okay, cool. Yeah. And why Frederick Douglass?
Power of words. The power of words, and how he went from literally kind of in a way teaching himself. He had such a hunger for words and the power of words that he used it to just basically change the world, And I think if we understand the power of our words, and I want our young, especially our young Black, generation, to understand the power of their words, and how just the color of how they could use it to really create change. And create a platform for wealth.
Definitely. It's about building that economic power base. Brother, how can people connect and support what you're doing, man?
Well, Fizzle. Our website is a primary place, Fizzle.com, FISLL. I would say, please look out for us in the next 2 weeks. We're about to launch 2 things. This social justice impact collection with the NBA, but also we're really trying to launch a team of leaders and impactors, where we really want to engage leaders in this. Well, 2020 was always a big year for me, because I wore number 20, and 20 just has this, this theme, right, of vision. Right. When the COVID hit, I was like, you know what? It's not going to stop what God planned for 2020. And we had planned to engage 20,000 leaders, right, for 2020. And we wanted to equip 20,000 leaders with we have a huddle guide. What we call a huddle guide it's just kind of like it's a digital kind of leadership guide that people can do on their own, but they can launch huddles in virtual groups.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to start, it got delayed, but it's not going to stop, right? But really our goal is to get 20,000 leaders and impactors to really just engage with us and really just form this team of leaders to take on this Fizzle message and really help support not only the message, but we want to really kind of help them understand how, they can build their brand.
All right. So that's FISLL.com, fizzle.com. Brother, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, man, for sharing with Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, man. And you know how we do, guys. Support my brother on here. He's doing tremendous things for the community. So we always support everybody that's on the platform. I thank you, brother, for sharing your time with the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint family.
Thank you for what you're doing too, brother.
Thank you, brother. That was an amazing interview with Mr. Allan Houston, former NBA All-Star, Olympic gold medalist, and successful entrepreneur. Now, before I close out and give you my takeaways on today's interview, I just want to share all my social media contact information and resource links. So at the top of the show, I mentioned my new book, A New Black Wall Street, Circulating the Black Dollar Worldwide by Building Successful E-Commerce Businesses. You can go to anewblackwallstreet.com, pick yourself up a physical copy for $14.95 or the digital version for $9.95. Now, if you need additional assistance building your successful, sustainable e-commerce business, my new flagship program, Brand Builder Academy Elite, you can go to bbaeliteinfo.com, bbaeliteinfo.com, and get more information on the program. It's my pound for pound best program out there. 15 modules that takes you from point A to point B in building a successful e-commerce business, be it with physical products or digital products. Also, I mentioned at the top of the show my two platforms that I've created to help build an economic power base in the Black community. The first one is BeSmartByBlack.com. Just go to BeSmartByBlack.com, and that is for Black product producers who want to sell their products to Black consumers worldwide. It is free to upload your information, so go to BeSmartByBlack.com and put your products up there now. Also, for my freelancers, anybody that does anything on Fiverr.com or Freelancer.com, I've created a site just for you called Hire Black Freelancers, HIRE Black Freelancers, and it's the same concept. It is free to upload your information, and now you can connect with Black consumers and Black businesses that want to hire Black freelancers. Also, my social media contact information. I know this is a lot, guys, but you can go to bebconnect.com and get all of this, bebconnect.com. But my social media info is as follows. If you want to send me anything long, hit me on my email, jjones@blackentrepreneurblueprint.com, JAYJONES @blackentrepreneurblueprint.com, Facebook, Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, Twitter, jjones001, JAYJONES001, Instagram, jjones for real, JAYJONES, the number 4, REAL. YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, family. I have additional content on YouTube that is not on the show. Yes, the show does come on YouTube, but just go to YouTube, type in Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, and hit the subscribe button. LinkedIn, connect with me there. Just search for J Jones Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. And if you want to be included in the BEB text line for special notifications and reminders about special events, text BEB to 555-888. That's BEB to 555-888. Also, I know it's a mouthful. Go to bebconnect.com, and that's a page on my website, and it'll have everything that I just listed down there. Also, please don't forget, check out the new course, The Blueprint. Just go to www.himalaya.com/blueprint and make sure you use the promo code Blueprint at checkout and get a 14-day free trial on the platform. Now, this doesn't go into effect until Tuesday, September 15th. That's when the drop is. Tuesday, September 15th. Just go to Himalaya.com/blueprint, put in the promo code Blueprint, and get a 14-day free trial on the platform. Ton of great content creators out there, and I'm blessed to be one of those that they asked to be on the platform. Now, let's get to some takeaways about today's show. That was a great interview with Allan Houston, and there's several takeaways that I got from that. And the first thing that really stood out to me was the character of the man. You know, I've talked to Allan outside of that. We're looking to do some possible collaborations down the road, and I've gotten a chance to talk to him on several occasions, and I really noticed that this is a man of character. So he's going to do things that fit or are aligned with what his mission is, and that really stood out to me. Another thing he talked about too, which really stood out, was he said your brand is the outer expression of your inner being. Your brand is the outer expression of your inner being. So if you're in an e-commerce space, or if you are a coach or whatever, your brand basically should represent what you are inside, but it's just showing outside. So that was real important to me too. And the last thing I want to touch base on is the support that Allan got from his parents and his community. One of the things that you saw is that Allan's parents were already entrepreneurs. So he saw that growing up. And so if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur, involve your kids in your business if they're interested, because that could be the spark to help them take your business to the next level or start their own business. But I think being exposed to those type of things, when you expose your kids to a meeting, or you explain to them why you're creating this product or how you sell your services, I think that's vital to get that exposure at a young age, so entrepreneurship isn't foreign to us. Once again, the majority of people that are wealthy either do it through real estate or through having their own businesses. And sometimes, obviously, it's a combination of the two. And there's other ways to make money also. But if you expose your kids and you support them when they're looking to do things, I think that's really going to help them as they grow and move forward. So, for example, even little side hustles that kids have, cutting grass, helping people clean out garages, things like that. Turn those into real business opportunities or real business ideas. So in last week's episode, Michaela Ulmer, Me and the Bees Lemonade, she started when she was 4 years old. But one of the things that you noticed was that her parents were very supportive. They were like, yeah, you need checks and balances. You have to find out how much this costs, how much that costs. What's your real profit? So making sure that we expose our children to entrepreneurship at an early age, I think, is paramount for us to start building an economic power base through entrepreneurship. So that's today's show, guys. Before we close on out, once again, I say this each and every week, please continue to spread the word about Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, the podcast and the blog. It's a movement. It's all about building an economic power base in the Black community, because without the economics, family, there's no revolution. There's no revolution without economics. That's where it starts and that's where it ends. Also, make sure if you're interested in checking out my new audio course, The Blueprint, just go to www.himalaya.com/blueprint. Put in the promo code Blueprint when you check out and get a 14-day free trial. Love you guys. See you same time next week. Peace.